Because of its internationally certified undying status as a flawless masterpiece, there are never any arguments about any aspect of Bloodborne. True gamers will rightly point out that the 30 FPS makes it literally unplayable, farming for blood vials makes it literally unplayable again, and the lack of a quest log or easier difficulty setting is a clear sign of a really lazy game developer. But because anyone that says otherwise is a fake gamer, everyone is in agreement on these things. We all agree that Ludwig is the better boss, and that the Bloody Crow is the worst enemy, and that Alfred is in the right, because we are all rational, intelligent people. And because we are rational, intelligent people, we completely skip the Chalice dungeons and never have to get into an argument over whether they're good or bad. Bloodborne's Chalice dungeons are what I'd consider to be the biggest point of true contention between a usually extremely agreeable player base, and I'll be the first to say that they're a hell dimension. A true labyrinth in every sense of the word, they're an interconnected mess of repeating art assets and room layouts that have been slightly jumbled up so that each is more confusing than the last, and yet they contain unique armor, weapons, and the most powerful items in the game. But more importantly, they contain much more than mere hunter trinkets. Indeed, they hide the very secrets of the old Great Ones, sought after by those with the insight to imagine greatness. In the words of Alfred,
"And the tomb of the gods, carved out below Yharnam, should be familiar to every hunter."
the first time I played Bloodborne, along with completely missing every single optional area, I didn't even realize the chalices existed. This seems to be quite a common occurrence, as where 25% of players have completed the game, only 8% have reached the very bottom of the Chalice dungeons. Even though the game does try and make them seem like an interesting place to explore narratively, anyone that actually visits them will more than likely feel lost, frightened, and confused in their winding dark hallways filled with traps, with none of the outstanding polish of the main game. I only went deeper than the very first level on New Game Plus when I'd already completed the game 4 times, and I wanted to get the platinum before Dark Souls 3 came out, and in doing so I unknowingly changed how I'd play games forever. The first time you try to go down through the Chalice dungeons is a harrowing experience for any player. The first few layers aren't too hard to navigate, but as you go deeper, and side areas and branching paths become more frequent, and room patterns and layouts start to repeat, it's almost impossible not to get completely lost down there as you search for the lever. There are 8 required Chalice rituals to get to the very bottom, and each one uses very specific materials acquired in the previous Chalice, and so any hunter aspiring to see the true secret of Bloodborne needs to be thorough. Missing a single side area in a first playthrough can leave you completely stuck in your progress, and your only option is to start the previous Chalice again from scratch and try and find the area you missed. Thinking about the horrifying complexity of it all makes me feel genuinely nauseous, but when I'm playing, something else happens. When I actually go down into the Chalice dungeons, I feel more in sync with my hunter than I do at any other part of the game. Usually in Bloodborne I'm staring up at the buildings and the moon in complete awe at how badass it all is, like a no-good tourist. But in the Chalice dungeons, the repeating familiar environments filled with enemies, where I need to be 100% engaged to not only survive, but just to keep myself from getting completely lost in a place I've been through 3 times before, makes me feel like a clinical, ruthless hunter. No matter where I am, my character is an emotionless, silent killer whose only focus is hunting prey, and in the Chalice dungeons, I feel exactly the same. Switch your brain off style gameplay is a term I hear a lot, and it's honestly the closest phrase I can think of to describe how it feels down in that ancient tomb once you get to a decent depth, but it's actually more like the opposite. My ego is switched off, and I'm not taking in the environments or the artwork or the music, but I'm so focused on what's going on and the series of twists and turns and staircases I've taken up and down, building a map of where I've been and where I haven't in my head, that it feels like I've stopped thinking completely. My only focus is chest, lever, door, chest, boss, lift, repeat, until I'm suddenly in the hunter's dream again and starting the ritual for the next chalice. I would describe the combat of all the Souls games as very Moorish, It has a certain feel that when you're playing them, they're extremely hard to put down. There's always that next enemy you need to dodge and then attack and then dodge and then kill. The enemies don't matter. The look of my character or the environments don't matter. All that there is dodge and attack. The only flaw with this formula is that their short linear single player games are over before you know it, and the hunger to hunt more beasts can only be satiated by replaying something you've already experienced before. The second time it's great, but it's as much a test of memory as it is of skill. The Chalice dungeons address this head on, and after spending a frankly horrifying amount of time down there, first to see everything the game has to offer, and then to replay the same 3 or 4 chalices over and over in search of the rarest and highest quality blood gems, I found out why they're supposed to be familiar to every hunter. Down in those dark depths of despair is a veritable hunt unending. In my mind, they've been framed badly, but the chalices should be used as a companion to the main game, rather than side stuff to do after you've completed it 4 times. They can be a completely boring pain in the arse, or they can provide you with blood gems that will make anything you find in the main game look like a piece of shit within a couple of hours of beating the 3rd boss. They're a great place to go and do a floor when a boss has got you down, or a great place to wish you didn't exist when you try to fight defiled amygdala for the 100th time. Going down there with every character I make as soon as I can to get PvP gems has very slowly become one of my favourite parts of the game, because it's more Bloodborne where I don't know every enemy and item placement for a change, and I have to actually pay attention. Even though they aren't anywhere near as good as the main game, their reuse of the same assets over and over becomes one of their greatest strengths, as it makes them impossible to memorize. And with the inclusion of randomly generated chalices, any player can experience new and fresh enemy layouts whenever they please. The chalice dungeons are so horrifyingly labyrinthine that the existential dread of the need to go everywhere and collect every item has changed me as a player. I've spent so long down there that I've actually went mad myself and turned from someone who is more than happy enough to miss certain things in games to a full-on completionist that needs to explore every tiny corner and see every single detail, and will actively try and then inevitably fail to platinum any game that I'm enjoying. I don't explore in games anymore like I used to, running in whatever direction seems most fun. I methodically and carefully check off diverging paths and corridors as I grow the map I'm drawing in my head, like I'm a giant tree reaching out one route at a time. I won't go to a new location until the one I'm in has been completely explored and I've uncovered all the dark secrets lurking within. Even when I'm not in Yharnam, I'm a tomb prospector at heart. Thank you to the horrible blood gem system for forcing me to go through the torment of the chalices so many times. Thank you to all the prospectors, old and new, for partaking in communion. And thank you for watching. Cheers.